Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I've got Spirit, my fire ivory ball python, helping me. She's actually looking a bit chubby these days. But today we're going to answer the question, how big do ball pythons get? So we've got to cover a few things here before we get to the details. Obviously I don't want to make you wait for the whole video to know how big they get. Basically your average ball python will get somewhere between 3 and 4.5 feet long when fully grown. I'm going to say 3.5 to 4 feet long is probably pretty average. But there's a lot of myths about this. So first of all, and a lot of, well, pretty terrible information. So first of all, how long is Spirit? Looking at her, what do we think? What would we say? Well, most people will probably say around 4 foot. The truth is, I have absolutely no idea how long she is. She's probably slightly over 3 feet, maybe 3.5. But the only accurate way to measure a snake is along the spine, all the way along the spine from the tail tip and then to the tip of the snout or the rostrum. So to do this, you'd have to, restrain it extremely well. So I couldn't restrain Spirit well enough to do this on my own, or you'd have to do it under anesthesia. Otherwise, it's not accurate. So when people say their ball python is such and such length, they don't know. You know, it's an estimate, it's a rough guess at best, and really I only listen to very, very experienced people. What I've always found is that in general, people add about a foot on, and you'd be surprised how short a lot of ball pythons are, even if they look a decent size. I mean, Spirit looks a decent size, but she's not that big. And I guess, I don't know, it's kind of like a big fish story, isn't it? Everyone adds a bit of length to the estimates of how long their snakes are. And another thing we see online, particularly with like the Volta ball pythons or the big females people talk about, is these perspective photos where someone's holding the snake way out in front of them and they're in the background and the ball python looks about, 50 pounds and 10 foot long. So, I mean, that's something to watch out for too. So, just quickly, I would say most males probably get about 28 to 42 inches long when they're adults. Up to around 3.5 foot is pretty average. I have one Prince that I'll put up here, and Prince is definitely over 4 foot. He's a big male. He's really, really a big kind of bruiser of a male. He actually popped an Exoterra hide, cracked the front of it during the breeding season. He fights his hide. He's kind of a beast all round, and he's a lot bigger than 4 foot. So when you see people say, like some of the popular blogs, which I won't mention, that say males only get to 3 foot, or they're much smaller than females, if you feed them enough, that isn't really true. There's been a tradition of feeding males less, and you end up with smaller males, but big males breed really well, and most males can get past the 3 foot mark. Most females, on the other hand, they've got a pretty good chance of getting to 4 foot. Quite regularly get to 4.5 foot. 5 foot is very unusual, even though everyone says they've got a 5 foot one. And then 5.5 foot is probably the biggest you'll ever see. But females, it is true that a lot of them tend to be more corpulent. They tend to be more massive and heavier than the males. Don't know what she's doing. I'll just let her go. As long as she doesn't get to the cacti, we're all good. There we go. But before we do discuss anything else, I wanted to talk about the only 5.5 foot plus ball python that I've been told about and I actually believe. So this is a Volta ball python. If you've heard of Volta ball pythons, they are from a specific region in Ghana, which is slightly more montane. I think it's slightly more arid, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But they do tend to be more massive, more corpulent and longer than other ones. They tend to lay bigger clutches at bigger eggs as well, and they have kind of big puffy heads. And they're quite a cool kind of variety. Spirit's trying to get away here. She's doing the backwards wiggle. That's her trademark move when she wants to escape. So this was Darren and Joe from D & Joe's Ball Pythons here in the UK, of very reputable breeders with lots and lots of experience, years and years and years. Well, she's trying to escape still, never mind. Darren showed me a video of a female that he said was about 5.5 foot, and given his experience and the amount of time he's been keeping them, I believed him. He said he thought possibly Volta ball pythons could get bigger. and perhaps 6 foot was the limit. So that is one case of a very, very big ball python, I actually believe. Now, whether they get to 6 foot or not, I don't know, because no one's accurately measured one. Maybe it's possible. I'm going to say it's very unlikely, but it might be possible. You never know. There's always, you know, there are freaks out there, but, well, there aren't really freaks. I'll explain that in a minute. So, aside from that, I wanted to cover why ball pythons don't get bigger than, you know, 28 to 42 inches for males, and, you know, 4 foot and kind of 3,000 grams for females, or 4.5 foot generally. And that the reason for this is that the outer appearance, the size, the morphology of an animal, what we call the phenotype, is coded by its genes for genotype, and this has been built over hundreds of thousands or millions of years for their evolutionary success. So a ball python which was freakishly small, say like the size of a worm, that would not do well in the wild. It wouldn't be able to breed with its conspecifics. It wouldn't be able to hunt the right prey. It would probably have the instinctive genetic programming to hunt for rodents, but it would only be big enough to take down crickets, and it wouldn't know what to do. Likewise, a ball python that was 10 foot long, or had some, you know, genetic freakishness that made it go to 10 or 12 foot long, probably wouldn't find the prey it was looking for either, particularly if it was in some of the, you know, the agricultural areas they've colonized, in the grasslands where they do depend on rodents a lot of the time. It wouldn't be able to find big enough prey. It wouldn't be able to find the prey it wanted, and when it came to breeding, it probably wouldn't be compatible with other members of its species. Now, it could be. I guess it depends. If it's a male to female, like we often do when we cross, you know, like ball pythons with Burmese and stuff like that, it can work. That's why we see hybrids. But I'm kind of thinking of like a 10 foot male breeding to like a 4 foot female. I just don't think it would work very well. And also, I mean, it would expose it to more predation. It would be kind of, you know, it just doesn't fit their optimum survival route, even if it could work. Like I said, with the hybrids, it works. And even one might survive, but it doesn't fit the optimal size for their survival, is what I'm trying to say in a really complicated way. Basically, trust evolution. It's been going on for millions of years. Evolution has made ball pythons the size they are, and it's very unlikely that they would get much, much bigger or much, much smaller, because that is the opposite of what evolution works. It really wants to weed out the unusual specimens. Which is, I guess, why you don't see too many like Spirit in the wild, because predators pick them off. So, another question I kind of commonly get asked on this subject is how to make your ball python grow bigger. And, I mean, there's really not a lot of tips for this, but I would say the main two things restricting the size of ball pythons in captivity is, one, people assuming that males will always be smaller and not feeding them enough. And there was even a myth here in the UK for a long time that smaller males were better breeders. It's completely not true. Feed your males as much as the females, and a lot of times you will get males that are, you know, 3.5, sometimes 4 foot, or even over 4 foot, like Prince. So don't believe that crap. Basically, just feed them as much as you think you should, based on their size. And the second thing is people starting off hatchlings and young ball pythons very slowly and giving them prey that is too small. I start my baby ball pythons off either on rat pups or mouse hoppers, and I quickly upgrade them to either medium, then large mice, or rat fuzzies, and then small weaners. And I upgrade them so that the prey is actually quite big in proportion to the baby snakes. Bigger than it is in proportion to the body of an adult snake. And that is how you get them to grow fast, and that is how, you know, don't overfeed them, don't power feed them, don't do big jumps in prey size, but always make sure you're giving them big enough prey. And that is how you get that growth going well, and you end up with big chunky adult snakes. Like Spirit, who's probably going to end up too chunky if I keep feeding her. But anyway, I'm going to put up when I edit this video, I'll put up a table showing the average sizes of mine in the past at different ages and their weights as well. So I hope this will be helpful for you. But as always, please do like and subscribe, and please do comment and get in touch if there's anything else you want to know. Thank you very much.